I can hear something calling, it's calling me every day. If taking a chance is a crime, then I've got hell to pay. I've been walking the streets in my mind, trying to find a new day. Keep on searching until I will find, until I find a new way. I'm gonna say something, I hope you don't mind. It's time to rearrange. I walk round in circles, I'm going nowhere. It's time to make a change.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I am your host, Charles Wallace. Today's guest is a member of the Las Vegas SWAT team and also a best-selling author of the book, October Strong. So please, without further ado, let's welcome Allyn Goodrich to the show. Hi, Allyn. How you doing? Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Charles, how are you?
I'm doing well. Great to have you. I probably won't do it justice. I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Well, my name is Allyn Goodrich. I'm a Las Vegas native. I've been a police officer since 2006 and really enjoy my job. And I've been blessed to have a pretty cool career and recently a published author and just working a lot and helping out cops with, mental health issues and the struggles that we all go through. So basic rundown of me and not a whole lot else exciting, just a regular guy.
I love your modesty. You're doing great work, and I see what you're doing as far as your content on LinkedIn. It's needed, and I think it's appreciated by many. So you mentioned about being a published author. I know your book is called October Strong, and what I wanted to start with was what inspired you to write it, and then I also wanted to ask you was it challenging to kind of fictionalize, an event that you're basing the book off of?
That's a good question. I hope you got a second. But what originally inspired me to write it was, and I know I've talked about this before, so I apologize for other people who've heard the story. But for those who haven't heard it, I was involved in a critical incident a few years ago. And, we call shootings our critical incidences, right? So, layman's terms, I was involved in a shooting and the aftermath of the shooting, you get placed on administrative leave. And so I was placed on administrative leave for a little bit. And while they do their investigation and just the routine stuff that the department does. And while I was on administrative leave, one of my friends, a real close friend of mine, he could see he could see through my facade. So like on the outside, I looked like I was doing good. I would still be me, but on the inside, I was really struggling, and I was kind of spiraling on a downhill spiral personally in my personal life. And when he saw these things in me, he kind of was just sitting me down and giving me some tips on how to deal with it, because they send you to doctors and they check you out and they talk to you about your feelings. And I really never responded well to that stuff. I could say the correct things. I could check the box and I could say what they wanted to hear, but I really wasn't responding well to that interaction with those doctors. And not to say it doesn't have its place and do a good job, but it just wasn't doing it for me. And so he encouraged me to kind of write down the incident and, write it down as detailed as I could and just put it in an envelope and never look at it again. So I did. And I felt that when I wrote the incident down, it did something for me that I wasn't expecting. And not that I didn't listen to his advice, I just didn't understand or grasp what that would do for me. But in a nutshell, it felt good. And I wrote it down and I didn't look at it again. But as the coming days and weeks would happen after that, I would start to get in those moments where it's, pretty dark and uncomfortable. And so rather than just grabbing a bottle of whiskey and disappearing to my bedroom and drinking myself to sleep, I started just writing down stories of things I had seen throughout my career. And, I know there's a lot of books out there by authors and cops that are, running gun battles and car chases and bank robberies. But for me, writing down stories of things that I had seen from, myself or other friends of mine that were just heartwarming and, kindness in law enforcement and heroic acts that just never got told. So for me, just writing down those stories was kind of almost a type of therapy. And I, had a big collection of fun stories, and I had showed them to a friend of mine, and he's like, "Man, you got a talent for telling stories. We should publish this." And uh, I never thought that I would. And so we kind of like sat down, and the fictionalized part of it was we had a bunch of stories from a bunch of friends, but we kind of just condensed them into a few characters, just to kind of paint the picture of what a life of a first responder feels like. And so the book isn't necessarily about police officers, it's about firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, nurses, veterans. It covers the whole broad spectrum of first responders or military for that matter. And we just kind of created several characters that we could put lots of stories together and just kind of open it out for the public to see, like, this is what it's like to go through a day in our shoes, that we're normal people, and that we feel things, and that we have emotions just like anyone else. So the fictionalizing it wasn't difficult for me. The difficult part was just putting myself out there where people would get to basically see my dirty laundry and the struggles that I went through.
I think that's admirable, though, not just the job you do, but to be willing to talk about. I think that by doing that, you're going to give other people, first responders especially, courage to know that it's okay to talk about it. Has it been challenging for you since writing the book? How do you kind of balance now your both careers now, between being a police officer and having a published book out there? How do you do that balancing act?
I'm trying to still figure that one out. It's very difficult. For one side of things, I have lots of good friends on our department, and a lot of people who are proud of me. But I'm a pretty private person, Charles. I don't like attention. I don't seek fame. I don't seek fortune. But I do feel like this can help people, and so it's extremely uncomfortable for me to go on podcasts and to just put myself out there where now people know that I did this. And I have cops constantly. I'll just walk down the street, and there are people I don't know. They'll just come up to me and be like, "Hey, dude, I read your book. It was fantastic. Thanks." And while I'm super appreciative of it, and it means a lot to me that it's touching people's lives, I just would rather like be in the background and be done with it. But every time I do these, it's uncomfortable. But all my friends are telling me, "Hey, it's really good. It's helping people out. So just keep doing it." And so it is a real tough balance. And I got more people asking for more books, and um, but we're a very busy team. Our SWAT team's probably one of the busiest in the country. So I go do my job, and then if I get a few minutes at home, I still find myself in that therapy mode, typing away something, and I'm working on some other stuff that's completely not even cop related right now. So it's kind of fun just to see where this road takes me. I don't know, but the balancing act, it's become very difficult for me.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think, and I'll give you a compliment here. I think you're doing a really nice job. You're starting to work through the balancing act, because you're actually humanizing, and I think that's needed, right? Of police in general. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes there's a bad rap, and I think that what you're doing, putting out there and putting a face to it and doing this to help other people, I think it is a good thing. So you say you're writing some stuff uncop related, but how how is what you've experienced in your career even influence some of that you're writing now that may not be, I'll say, cop related? How has that influenced you?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if my career has necessarily influenced me to be a writer per se. I really enjoy reading in general, and I've always been kind of a bookworm. So I always kind of, I've always grown up reading Tom Clancy and Clive Cussler and Hemingway. I mean, anything I could get my hands on, I love to read. As an adult, as a kid, I was too ADHD to even sit down with a book. So as a kid, there was no way. But as an adult, I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't read, or I don't, watch movies and stuff like that. I do enjoy television, but I find myself reading more. So I always wanted to write, but I feel like I'm a really good storyteller. And one of the cool positions is I have a lot of cool stories. There's, there's a lot of fun stuff that we do on our job, but I don't want, I got to balance it, because at one point I can't exploit some of the things that we do at work. I can't exploit our tactics and our department's procedures. And I try and walk a fine line there. But at the same time, I feel like, I just feel like there's a lot of stories out there that aren't told. We hear the stories on the news of, this guy screwed up and that guy screwed up, or this woman screwed up in uniform, and it's heartbreaking because we're human beings. But the stuff that we see on a day-to-day basis, that's just, you would not believe it unless you saw it. That stuff doesn't get told. And then very rarely does it even get recognized within our own. So yeah, you'll get a medal or you'll get a piece of paper from your boss saying good job on this. But I want to be a mouthpiece and maybe an ambassador to let the world know, the good stuff that we do. I guess I'm an optimist. There's a lot of good stuff that we do.
Yeah, having, my family being police, other relatives, things like that. I do. I've had other police officers on the podcast, and I like to provide at least a small platform for you guys to present all the good that you do. I think it's important because I think it's a serious issue, and you start to touch on it a little bit. How do you balance and how do you see people within SWAT and police balance a lot of that bad stuff, the horrible things you see, with your mental health? And it feels like a lot of times people are afraid to discuss it or talk about it.
That's a major issue. I would say I just had one of the coolest conversations with a gentleman here at SHOT Show this week, Brian Murphy. And if I probably don't have permission to tell all his stories, but if you don't know who Brian Murphy is, look him up. I'll probably have to talk to him further to get permission to tell his stories. But this is one guy who I'm just walking around SHOT Show and I was introduced to him. And, I'm supposed to be working a booth for a company I instruct for. And I just disappeared and spoke to this guy for about 2 hours because I just get lost in his story. And he, after all this stuff and all these struggles and these things I'm trying to go through, I'm constantly learning. And speaking with Brian, he said very impactful things to me. One of them specifically was talking about ways that he found to, so he went through a lot, and then physically, and then a lot mentally afterwards. And he found a way, which he described it to me as not healing per se, but maybe putting a cap on the pain. Because you're always going to have to deal with it, but to be able to function and move forward with the baggage that you carry, he found a way to put a cap on it. But you're absolutely right. We work in a service-based industry where we have priorities. Our priorities are, one, we serve the public, right? That's our number one job, is to serve someone else. And then after that, we'll come home, we'll try and be a part of the family, and that comes second. And then somewhere like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 comes us. And so because we're so service oriented, we're not thinking of ourselves. We're trying to help everybody else. And then the thing that gets left behind is us. And we don't realize that. And so it sounds selfish to say that, like, I might need to take care of me a little bit so that I can effectively take care of the public and our families and, our coworkers. And I when he said that to me, I was just like blown away, because that's so true. And then on top of that, to add to that service-based hierarchy that we live in order we take things, on a SWAT team, you add bravado. I'm a tough guy. I can handle it. I'm strong, right? And so we don't talk about our struggles. Like, if you want to get stronger, you go to the gym and you lift weights. If you want to get faster, you go for a run. But if you're struggling mentally or emotionally, like, what is the path and exercise regimen you can do to strengthen that? And that's something that I think we're really, really getting to a point in not just law enforcement, but first responders in general and military, and where it's becoming I think it's finally becoming a point where people are talking about this, not just, hey, toughen up, go back to work. Like, what can we do to help you? Um, I've had a lot of friends commit suicide, and that's a very common thing, and both in military and law enforcement, and a lot of times there's no reaching out. There's just an end. But I think now, especially here in Las Vegas with our department, they are so focused on our mental being and our mental welfare. So our department recently created a thing called the Wellness Bureau, which is an entire bureau focused on your physical and mental well-being. And it's impressive, Charles. Like I'm very impressed. We've got a new sheriff recently, and he understands it probably better than anybody before him. And he created this whole thing to be there and help us. And it's not perfect, it's not, but it's getting better and better and better. And it's very impressive. So it's a balancing act, but I think we're getting to a point where we can finally start talking about it's all right to be not all right.
Yeah, you reminded me as you spoke through that. I was having a conversation last week, and it was about putting yourself, where do you come in at, right? And the gentleman actually said something poignant I'll share with you. He said, it's almost impossible to put yourself first, but we at least have to be better at not putting ourselves last. He said, because if we can do that, we'll serve everybody better.
Correct. I mean, so sorry to cut you off, but it's like that oxygen mask on the airplane thing. But you put it on yourself before you help someone else, and it's just something we don't think about.
So thinking about the Wellness Bureau and just for SWAT, police, procedure-based organizations and teams, you're about protocol procedures, right? Are you starting to see now that they're actually putting procedures and protocol in place officially to start to make it, a responsibility that other people, yourself, have to have your mental health as a priority?
Well, I don't know about procedures. I'm probably pretty new to what procedures they have in place, but I do know, from personal experience with a friend of mine recently. And once again, it's kind of private, so I won't go too much into it. But a real good friend of mine, a former teammate, recently was going through some pretty big issues, and the issues came to a point where people knew about it, and the people who are now in this new bureau jumped right on it and got him the care he needed. So I don't know if they have a policy in place where if this happens, then this happens. But I'll tell you, there's genuine people who actually, to say it bluntly, give a crap.
Yeah, that's good to hear, because I think you guys deserve it. I think you guys have a thankless job. I mean, for everyone that's appreciative of it, I think there's too many that aren't, and you deserve a lot of thanks and our respect, first off. And I think that hearing that people are caring and giving a damn about your well-being, it is important. So as far as your book, what are you hoping as far as the readers, right? What do you want them to take away from your book?
That's a great question. So it began as more or less therapy for me, but as I started and kind of, I don't want to say like, as I started, it was therapy, like no doubt about it. But as it started to morph into this thing that was like a train that had left the station and I couldn't control it, I was like, where am I going on this train? This is insane. Now it's to the point where I'm having lots of people reach out to me, and it sounds really selfish to say this, but it began as therapy for me. And now as many people are reaching out to me, telling me about their experiences and how it's helped them, it's benefiting. Like I said, it sounds selfish, but it helps. It makes me feel good to know that it's doing good for somebody, and it gives me more and more fuel to do these uncomfortable things like interviews and people shaking my hand on the street. So I guess twofold. One, I wanted to help folks. I really do. And when I say help folks, I mean on two sides. So one, if somebody is going through those struggles as a first responder, or it doesn't even have to be a first responder, it could be anybody, but trauma's trauma. trauma to a guy who works at a bank or a woman who's a nurse or a firefighter. Trauma's trauma. So one, I really wanted to help folks out and to just help with understanding. And the second part is not just help with all that trauma, but the feedback that we're getting from this is that, like, let's say there's a police officer who's hired on the job and his mother notices changes in him, and the mom has no background in law enforcement. So the second part is it's really helping family members of first responders understand that this is the why we are the way we are. If your son, daughter, brother, sister, cousin, or husband, wife, spouse comes home from a shift and they just got that 1,000-yard look in their eyes and they don't want to talk about work, maybe this is giving you an understanding as somebody who's not in the industry of, they may have seen something that just, that was it for them. That was the day that some wires got crossed. And you don't have to understand what they're going through, but just understand that they're going through it. Maybe give them some space, maybe give them a hug, maybe be patient with them. Maybe don't yell at them for not taking out the garbage. I guess just give an understanding, Charles, of sometimes things aren't all right. And this maybe is what happened to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think it's a great message. And I think also, great message, great thing. I think I read somewhere about, with the book, you're doing a charitable component to the Wounded Blue. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So when I started putting these stories together, while I would like to take credit for the stories, they're not all mine. So I was using stories of friends of mine who just did some pretty cool things. And of course, I got their permission to, use their stories, and I changed names and dates and stuff like that. But the stories are true. And so as I was putting it together, my publisher and some other people were talking to me saying, hey, there could be some money involved in this. And it felt dirty to take money from somebody else's story. And I'm putting it together and I'm using the creative aspect, but I wasn't the person that did X, Y, and Z. And so I didn't like the idea of getting the money for it. And so my real good friend and mentor runs a charity called the Wounded Blue. And his name's Randy Sutton. And he was kind of with me from day one on who to contact for editing and publishing and the creative art material on the cover. And so Randy was really walking me through all the steps. And Randy, if you don't know Randy Sutton, this is a guy who is extremely talented and extremely motivated, but he wakes up at like 4 a.m. in the morning and goes to bed at 1 o'clock at night. And all he does is think about ways to help cops by his charity. So this is a completely selfless guy. And I was just sitting there. I'm like, you know what? Like, let's just give this money to the Wounded Blue. So we've donated, and we're donating all the money from all these proceeds to the Wounded Blue. That our intent is just to help out the Wounded Blue as much as we can.
Fantastic. And kudos to you for that. And I do know of Randy. I've had some other guests who've spoken of Randy. So I hear nothing but great things about Randy. So I'm glad you brought that up too. Kind of want to end with this. Through your book, through your actions, just the way you carry yourself, Allyn, how do you hope to kind of influence public's perception and understanding of like challenges that you guys face in law enforcement?
I don't know what part I will play in the future. Will I be a big voice? Will I be a small voice? I don't know. But I got to walk around with Randy at the SHOT Show just a little bit yesterday. And as we're walking with him, people were just coming up to him in droves and like, Randy Sutton, let me get a picture. Thank you so much. And I just pulled him aside afterwards. I'm like, dude, like, if I could be in a position someday to help people out like you do, like, that would be it. That would be all I want to do. So going forward, I've been, like I said, I've been contacted by a handful of people who, I don't want to tell their stories too much, but just blew me away with some of their feedback and responses having read this. And I never thought that would happen, but if I can be a big voice, I'll be a big voice. If I'm a small voice and just one person, if I can just help one person, then that's it. But whatever capacity I'm going to fill in the future, I'll fill that role. But the one person is enough for me. It really is. One person's life changed or one person helped. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's admirable what you're doing, and I look forward to. I mentioned before we started, I appreciate you sending me a copy. Probably is going to arrive today, so I'm definitely going to jump in and read that. I'm looking forward to it, especially now after speaking with you a bit. The last thing that I did want to ask you was, having experienced all you've experienced, it sounds like it's been a journey. Who you are currently sitting there right now, what would you say to yourself just even 6 months, a year ago? How would you advise yourself?
Put on a seatbelt, buddy. It's going to get bumpy.
Fantastic. Fantastic. You mentioned anything in the near future as far as a book or anything to look forward to, or just works in progress?
Yeah. Two that we're working on right now. Well, there's technically a third. One is completely unrelated to law enforcement, and it's just I'm trying out my hand and being a creative person, and has absolutely nothing to do with law enforcement. It's a fun tale. Can't get into it too much, but it'll probably be written under a different name because my name's attached to the October Strong, and I've got this image. And this next thing I'm working on may or may not be that Allyn Goodrich clean cut, great image, but it's going to be fun. I'm just trying my artistic ability on that. But as I am working on one, don't have the name quite down yet, but it's going to be basically dealing around discipline and how to put on a smile when you get in trouble, be it at work, at home, to not get down on yourself. And it's going to cover all basics from, dealing with coworkers, dealing with bosses, administrative trouble, all the way up to criminal trouble. So, we all step in it. We all trip, we all fall. And I like to use, who was he? There was that motivational speaker. His name, I can't think off the top of my head, but he always had this thing saying, fail forward. What was his name? Anyway, that the idea of fail forward, that failure, if you're not failing, you're not trying. And the successful people out there didn't get successful because they didn't fail. They failed constantly. And so it's going to deal with all the failures that we go through, but find a way to stand up, pick yourself up, keep moving forward, keep opening up doors, get the blood off your knees, keep going, have a smile on your face, and have a great attitude, because we're all going to get in trouble. We're all going to step in it. And we're all going to fail, but just keep failing forward.
What a great message to end with, Allyn. Fantastic. And hey, I'm gonna call you out right now on this. Once that book comes out, I want to have you back on.
You got it.
That'll be right up my alley. I would love to talk about that more with you. Well, listen, I know you're a busy man. I appreciate you giving me some time. Wish you nothing but success with the book, your future books. First and foremost, stay safe out there. We all appreciate what you do, and thank you again.
Well, I thank you, Charles. You gave me the most important thing you have in your life, and that's your time. So I'm appreciative to you, sir.
Awesome. Glad we got a chance to connect. Looking forward to the book. I will message you once the book shows up, and I will be gladly sending you feedback about how much I'm enjoying it. So thanks again.
Right on. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. And hey, by the way, if you can, thank a police officer. They're doing the work that none of us want to do. Thanks, Allyn.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been the Bare Essentials. Thanks for listening. And remember, never hibernate on your goals.